Welcome to Eldercare Illuminated, Torchlight's caregiving podcast. Eldercare Illuminated addresses the ins and outs and ups and downs of caring for your loved ones. Join us for interesting conversations with eldercare specialists, geriatric care managers, attorneys, and ordinary people with extraordinary caregiving experiences.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Eldercare Illuminated, brought to you by Torchlight. I'm your host, Lenore Tracy, and I'm the Eldercare practice leader here at Torchlight. I hope you are all doing well as we move forward during the COVID-19 pandemic. As if caregiving were not difficult enough, let's introduce a disruption like none other most of us have experienced in our lifetimes. Today, we are lucky to be speaking with Amy Ford. Amy is the Vice President of Strategic Partnerships and Business Development for Silvernest, an online roommate matching service. And Silvernest pairs empty nesters, retirees, and other aging adults with long-term housemates. Welcome, Amy.
Thank you for having me.
Amy, I would love you to tell us a little bit about Silvernest and the concept of home sharing as an option for older adults.
Sure, thank you. Silvernest is an online home sharing platform that helps older adults and empty nesters identify well-matched housemates and then supports both the homeowners and the housemates for the duration of that arrangement. So that takes place in a number of different ways. We have a compatibility algorithm. We support background screening, identity verification, auto cashless rent payment processing, and insurance offering to both parties, and more. It's really a full service platform that aims to support the full home sharing journey. And, I think as we age, we all want to stay put in our homes and keep our financial situation stable. And what's really unique about home sharing, I think, for older adults is its immediacy. Within a month or so, someone can generate an income stream and additionally identify companionship. And I think right now during this pandemic, we're really seeing how interconnected we really are and how much we really need other humans. So many older adults may consider home sharing for the income, but there's the additional social connection benefits that can be pretty significant.
It's sounds like it's an idea that really makes a lot of sense right now, although people may be afraid of connecting with each other. This may be a silly question, but does the term home sharing also apply if a family or a younger person has a home and they have spare space in their home and want to open it up to an older person who maybe needs some support in addition to a place to live? Is that encompassed in the whole definition of home sharing?
It is. We've served all blends. Our platform makes it easy for someone to solve whatever problem they may be trying to solve. Single to single is our most common, but we really have seen it all. Retired couples, the empty nesters that decide they're ready to, make use of that spare bedroom that's been gathering dust. We have come across also families. For instance, I can think of a younger couple who has a retired housemate that helps with childcare in exchange for a rent discount. So there's really all sorts of combinations, and the platform supports the homeowner being able to identify upfront what they're looking for.
That's pretty amazing. How old is Silvernest, if I may ask?
Yeah, 5 years old.
5 years old. So pretty new in this space. And we know that most older people say that they want to be able to stay in their own homes as they get older. I know that that's been well documented, but the house may be too much to manage. It may be too large. Mm-hmm. There may be issues with stairs or yard work. What kinds of interesting arrangements or stories can you share with us where you see home sharers make an arrangement to address some of the difficulties of being in the house that worked well when you were raising a family or, when you were in your 40s or in your 50s, but now those, 15 steps up to the front door are an issue,
Sure.
But you love your home.
Yeah, sure. I think we know our country has a lack of housing stock, and then there's not to mention the lack of actual affordable housing options. So staying put in your own home can be a really smart move. But to your point, many homes are really not set up for comfortable aging. So sometimes we do see the extra income homeowners generate used to make those home improvements or modifications, widening doorways, adding ramps, etc., to make staying in that home a bit more feasible. The average monthly income that a homeowner generates on our platform is around $850 a month. And that's, of course, the average. In more expensive markets, that number can be higher, which is a significant and, meaningful amount of money that gives homeowners a lot of flexibility to make these changes and make that home a bit more comfortable. We also see on our platform that when homeowners are listing their space, between 30 and 40% note that they're open to reduced rent in exchange for help around the house, which is pretty interesting. This is specifically not caregiving, I do want to clarify, but rather, like you mentioned, that lawn care or general day-to-day light chores, anything on a ladder, light bulbs, air filters, those are the things in everyday life that can make it harder to be in a home, and a housemate can really help with that.
So we're not talking about personal care. We're not talking about anything that has to do with the aging person's health care. But what about cooking or shopping, things like that?
Sure. Yeah, anything. The homeowner can really explicitly make it known, what their needs are, and our compatibility engine will help identify housemates that are also open to those same arrangements. And, I'll tease out a little bit of what you just said. We aren't a caregiving platform, but it is interesting how home sharing can support caregivers and the caregiving industry. You could consider pairing together two people who need care in one home. That could potentially streamline access to some shared care opportunities. If you're bringing someone else into that home to provide care, could be an interesting arrangement. Additionally, we've given some thought to people who are family caregivers themselves that could benefit from sharing their own homes and generating some income. We know family caregivers are often spending their own resources on the person that they're caring for and long hours away from their home. So it can also be an interesting kind of avenue to explore. And I think also, lastly, we've had some good conversations with larger caregiver providers who note some of the limitations in labor in the industry. And, one way home sharing can also support that is encouraging those caregivers to possibly home share near where they work on a daily basis, which could potentially help retain some of that labor. So there's a lot of opportunity to use home sharing to help those who are not yet in need of those actual caregiving responsibilities. But there's also ways that home sharing can be a nice complement to those that are potentially doing the actual caregiving of family, either as their profession or within their family.
Those are pretty fascinating ideas. We talk frequently, and you probably in your housing world don't talk about this a lot, but we talk about the activities of daily living and how someone, an assessment is done, and the social worker or a nurse or the family is thinking about these 6 kind of essential things: using the toilet, eating, getting around. And those activities of daily living, fondly known as ADLs, are really all about your person, your body. But there's that second set of instrumental activities of daily living, which are that the one removed from taking care of your body, but are preparing the meal or going shopping, driving, getting about town. And it sounds to me like the set of IADLs, instrumental activities of daily living, could often be addressed in some sort of arrangement like this.
Sure, definitely.
So how often are these kinds of other duties or responsibilities a feature of the exchange? And what's the balance between rent and helping with the house and helping around the house that you see most often?
Yeah, I think what we know is upfront, kind of how people fill out their profiles and what they're open to. So that's what we know upfront, that about 30 to 40% of homeowners note that they're open to that reduced rent for help around the house. I think tracking how often that is executed is, for us a little bit difficult to track, but we know that those conversations are happening on our platform, and many housemates are open to those conversations to find more affordable places to live in their community.
So let's talk a little bit about the roommate part of things. I had roommates when I was in college and after college, and that seemed pretty normal. And those were the days when you might look at an ad in the paper or, go to Craigslist and post your room in your funky old house that you were looking for a roommate. And that seemed normal. But with older people, how does that idea of living with a stranger seem to fly? What does that look like? Or am I just being prejudiced here and thinking that it would be any more difficult as an older person to live with roommates?
Well, as we get older, we potentially get a bit pickier, right? So that is something we build in to our product, is a really robust compatibility engine, because we know that that's what people are anxious about. What if I don't match well, with someone? What if it doesn't? What if we don't click? But what's interesting are the homeowners on our platform are in their mid 60s. Our housemates trend even a bit younger than that, and this age cohort is very familiar with the shared economy. They're participants in ride shares and workspaces, and a shared home is definitely just a natural extension of that. I think even the fastest growing demographic of Airbnb hosts are over 60. I think that this is not necessarily such an uphill battle to consider, but that's why our platform is sort of well positioned to support someone throughout that whole journey. So you do get that sense of security and reassurance that you're going to be matched with someone that is aligned with what you're seeking, and we can support all the logistics around making it possible. So you're not going to the local community board with something that's pinned up or Craigslist. You're really participating in a robust support process throughout trying to identify that housemate.
So what kind of questions do you ask in your matching algorithm?
Oh, sure. It's questions about things that you would probably guess. Are you a night person? What's your work schedule? Things that, how tidy are you? Things that really help identify where we think that things that we think people tend to be anxious about. How can we facilitate some of the conversations around those areas and ensure that people that are being matched together, that at the bare bones basics, they've got some of the same things that they're seeking. And then they can engage in further conversation and kind of suss that out together through our platform.
So do you offer a trial period, or what does the process typically look like? And where I would like to learn more about the legal relationship in a home share. Is it like landlord-tenant? What does that evolve into once you've got a match?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, home share arrangements operate similarly. We feel very strongly that people should enter into a formal agreement. It really is the greatest opportunity for protection, where the terms are easily identified, and we take all this security very seriously. We have third-party background checks available for people to utilize on the platform. We do identity verification. We offer that secure messaging. So you have the question about kind of what happens. The homeowner will view their dashboard. They see how well matched they are with applicants to their property. They get to select who they'd like to securely message with until the point where they'd like to actively home share, and then they can share their own personal information. And, the length of the lease, which I think was another one of the questions you had, it's totally up to the homeowner and the housemate. The homeowner could say, let's try this for 3 months and see how it goes. Actually kind of one of the tips we have, because you can easily extend if it's going well. So sort of give someone the security to move through the process and give them the flexibility to use the tools available to create kind of like some structure around how they engage with their potential housemates.
Sounds very much like in the beginning of it, it's like online dating. You're creating a profile and you're saying kind of something about what you like, what you dislike, what kind of music you listen to, whether you make a big mess in the kitchen, etc. And then at some point, are you actually like saying you suggest that people meet off premises somewhere, they don't come to see the home right away? I'm smiling because it just is reminding me of that.
Yeah, that is one of the tips we can offer folks, meet outside in a public place, go for a walk. That can also generate some good conversation, especially now in this time, get of the pandemic, get to know someone in an outdoor setting, wear a mask, get to know each other, out in the world before maybe you determine that you'd like to move into the next step.
Have you seen a lot of differences or an increase in interest during the pandemic, or have things quieted down a little because the social engagement and social distancing, they're kind of throwing us for a loop?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think we did some surveying of our users to kind of look into this a little bit to find out, how are they feeling about home sharing during the pandemic? What resources, what support do they need? And as you might expect, a little bit of a mixed response in terms of how people are feeling about it. I think what's interesting is that the desire and need for resources and income and companionship outweighs the need to kind of mitigate the risk of potentially entering into a home sharing arrangement. So there's some very practical things people can do before they would actually move in together that make home sharing very feasible right now. And that unfortunately, exacerbated by the pandemic, are the financial constraints and those really difficult situations around feeling lonely and isolated really make home sharing kind of an interesting proposition right now.
I think so. And the health effects of social isolation and loneliness have been well documented. So we're all in a situation where we're balancing what we need against risk. Mm-hmm. And that's just heightened. We have done a lot of talking at Torchlight about when you have caregivers who are coming into your loved one's home, coming to some sort of agreement with them. These are the practices that we agree we're both going to adhere to. We're going to wear masks, how we're going to behave when we're out, not with the person that we are a caregiver for, but shopping or socializing or whatever, so that there is a common agreement as to what both parties are going to do to protect each other, especially because older people are more vulnerable to this disease and may have a more serious case if they do contract it.
Absolutely.
I want to continue this just thinking about what's happening in the world right now of unemployment and reduced employment. On September 4th, so that's just last week, the Bureau of Labor Statistics announced that the unemployment rate was 8.4%, which sounds really good, down from 14% March and April, but that's still really high. Mm-hmm. But of course, mortgage payments and rent payments are still due, and families are in trouble right now. And so this seems like not just on the older person, meeting the older person's needs, but seems like a really good opportunity to help financially and with all of the other social aspects. Have you seen an uptick in that at all? Are you putting that information out there to potential sharers?
Yeah, it is so hard to see so many people struggling financially, laid off work, forced into early retirement. I think home sharing, it's not a new idea. It's an old new idea, that we're certainly trying to make sure that people know about the option, that they can take advantage of it for both homeowners and housemates who can have financial benefits. Like you mentioned, homeowners can leverage that, what's often their largest asset, their home, to generate extra income that they can put towards those mortgage payments or property taxes, other daily living costs without, kind of preserving some of their savings. And of course, for renters, it creates an immediate access to housing for less than they would maybe pay out there in the market. And they can also benefit from splitting bills and expenses. So there's definitely a lot of natural financial opportunities. I think another interesting element about home sharing is its passive income. So you can be leveraging your home, making some money, and also still look for some part-time work, look for some contracting or consulting work. You can pair it with other activities to provide a little bit more security. And again, home sharing isn't, it's a lease, not a marriage. So you can try it out. When we think about this time in our country and in our history and how challenging it is, it's hard sometimes to look up and say, okay, this won't be forever, so how do we get through the next 6 months, the next 12 months? And this is something you can try, keep your finances steady. And even sometimes we find homeowners, they open their homes out of altruism as well. How can they provide a place, an affordable place for people in their community to live where they may otherwise be evicted or out of a home? So there's all sorts of reasons why I think home sharing is a really unique solution for this time. And like I said, it's not a forever thing. You can always try it out and see how it goes.
And of course, we haven't talked about families, families who live in multi-generational living arrangements. Well, that is, in effect, what they're doing. They may have a harder time saying, we're done with this now, it's working out, because it's family and not friends or housemates.
Sure.
But of course, this is commonly how families lived and supported each other. So in many ways, it seems to me like it's an extension of that. And, well, you can't pick your family, but you can perhaps pick the person you share your home with.
I love it. We should steal that. I love it.
Yeah. So do you ever see children involved in this? So a roommate, perhaps a single mom or dad, who either brings someone else into the home or comes into an older person's home? Children ever involved?
Yeah, we have done, this is slightly, and like I said, we serve all types of arrangements. So yes, I'm sure that what you've described is happening on the platform because we have all types of users. I think something that we've done also in the past is partnerships with nonprofits and other entities. So, for example, Teach for America. So there's a younger person coming into an older person's home where they've come into a community where they're, teaching for a year and they're on limited means so that older homeowner can support and mentor that younger person. Yes, I think, and again, the flip is also happening as well, where a family is home sharing with an older person who may be retired and exchanging maybe some reduced rent for childcare. So all sorts of interesting arrangements are possible.
This is a time of enormous creativity, and that's what big disruptions do to society. They put us out in limbo and in chaos, and then we have to get creative. In your experience, as we've talked about all the wonderful parts and all the wonderful things that can happen with home sharing, what are some of the common problems that you've seen and how are those addressed?
Yeah, sure. So first and foremost, we always encourage people to have those important discussions up front, documented in a formal agreement, and it really forces you to talk through some of those details and things that really matter to you, making sure that you're really ready. Talk with your family, talk with your friends, think through everything from, did you make some closet space available? How do you plan to functionally share your kitchen? What are some of your expectations of your housemate? And really be honest about what you're looking for. I think a little bit of introspection can fend off a lot of potential problems, and be really specific about what you're looking for in your post. If you're retired, maybe you don't want someone who is at the house all day. Maybe you want someone that's out working, in the community, or maybe it's important that they're very tidy or maybe share some interest. Whatever is important to you as a homeowner, I think it's really important that you put it out there. Be upfront, be honest. And all this proactive work leads to really nice, clear expectations, which fends off a lot of potential challenges for sure.
It sounds like if those are the things that you're telling us about, those must be the areas where things fall apart. The roommate was messier than was anticipated or never talked about, or is either there all the time or is never there, or, you can imagine it.
Right. Normal human stuff, that we don't realize how picky we are or, things that really matter to us until someone's in our space. And so, that's why I just really advise being being just honest with yourself about what you really need. It's your house, it's your space. So say what you need to make it work. And, since we were founded 5 years ago, less than 1% of our users have not succeeded. So that's a huge success factor for us.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about the stats there. So 99% of people matched together have figured out a way to make it work, huh?
Yep. And about 40% of our users actually come back and list a second time. So we feel like that's a good indicator that we're matching them well and they're happy with the service.
Sounds like a winning solution for a lot of different problems. Any other do's and don'ts that you think it would be important to understand or prepare for if you or your loved one is contemplating looking for a housemate?
Definitely. I think some of them we've talked about, meeting people in person is always great. You can learn a lot about a person. Taking a walk and having a nice conversation. Definitely vetting your housemate prior to entering the lease. So like I mentioned, we do support background checks, ask for references, check their social media pages for insights, and tell your friends and family your plans, and ask for their help in assessing, people who you may want to live with. And don't give out your personal information unless you feel like they've been vetted and you feel comfortable. Again, always enter into a rental lease. That's always our recommendation. It's the best kind of form of protection to set yourself up for success.
Do you find any differences across states in what you need to advise people or how they set up?
Sure. So actually our platform has state-specific lease template. So depending on where you live, you can draw down a template from your specific state. And, we did mention this before, but worth saying again, you don't have to enter a 1-year lease off the bat. You could try a 3-month period and see if things work out. And I think lastly, the most important thing that sometimes we suggest is be picky, but also, keep an open mind. You never really know how a situation could really be wonderful and beneficial. One of the best pairing stories that we have is a 60-year-old woman who was paired with a 30-year-old retired Marine. And she noted, Ness is not someone I ever would have thought to pick, but we appeared very compatible and they lived together for 18 months before he left to get married. And so, be curious. The benefits may surprise you.
That is a great story. Well, Amy, thank you so much for all this information and for opening our eyes about new ways to think about living into old age and maybe new ways to think about surviving when the job market is tough and reduced hours might be something that you're facing. We'll post the Silvernest website address in the show notes for anyone who wants to explore further. And there are probably other websites. Do you have any competitors, Amy, out there in the market?
I think largely where people go to find a roommate is Craigslist. And I would just argue that we provide a lot more than Craigslist to keep you secure and confident in your home sharing journey.
I'm not going to argue with you on that one. That just sounds a little bit scary. Listeners, I want to thank you for joining us today. And Amy, I want to thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate the time.
Eldercare Illuminated is brought to you by Torchlight. No matter the age, stage, crisis, or concern, Torchlight provides real-time access to strategies and solutions for the everyday challenges of caring for children and caring for adult loved ones who are aging, ill, or disabled. Thank you, and we'll see you in the next episode of Eldercare Illuminated.
Thanks for listening to Eldercare Illuminated, a Torchlight caregiving podcast. Find other episodes of Eldercare Illuminated on iTunes, Spreaker, and Podcast Go. If you're interested in bringing Torchlight Elder or any of Torchlight's other caregiving products to your workplace, please contact info@torchlight.care. That's info@torchlight.care.